For whatever reason, the Lakers just decided to get rid of everybody after they lost to the Pistons. But in this trade, they gave away basically Gary Payton, Rick Fox, and a 2006 first-round pick and $2 million cash for Chris Mem, Chucky Atkins, and Jermaine Jones. Yeah, and then the Celtics kind of gave away Payton along with Gagaluda and Stewart for a 2005 first-round pick, but because it was protected in the lottery and the Lakers, missed the playoffs that year, it automatically went to 2006. They gave all that up just to get Antoine Walker back. Once the Hawks had the pick, they traded that Rondo pick and their own 2008 pick, which later turned out to be Robin Lopez and Boris Diaw, all for Joe Johnson from the Phoenix Suns when he actually was there for a while. For some reason, the Cavaliers thought they would be better with Jerry Welsh, and then gave them a 2007 first-round pick for it, Rudy Fernandez.
Well, actually, there's a trade brewing with this next pick. Phoenix picks at number 21, and Boston has been trying to get back into this draft, trying to get Rajon Rondo, the Kentucky point guard, the sophomore point guard. So they're now working with Phoenix, since Rondo did not go before 21, to where they can select him for the Celtics. And then the Celtics would end up paying the salary of Brian Grant, taking that salary off of the Suns needing to dump some of that salary, and then they would pick at 21 Rondo. That's what is being proposed, being talked about as we speak between Phoenix and Boston. Dan?
All right, Andy, they also got Sebastian Telfair in regards to first-round draft pick and being able to put him in at the point. So this is the proposed deal, according to Andy Katz, what the Celtics receive and what the Suns will receive with this deal. The commissioner joins us with the Phoenix Suns on the clock, the pick that could end up going to Boston.
With the 21st pick in the 2006 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns select Rajon Rondo from the University of Kentucky.
Well, we have our first point guard selected, and if you had Rajon Rondo in the lottery, you're a winner. The sophomore guard from Kentucky, not a great shooter. They got Sebastian Telfair, and we're talking about the Boston Celtics. If this deal that has been proposed is going down, the Suns will send Rondo to the Boston Celtics, who all of a sudden have some depth at the point guard position. So sophomore guard, first Kentucky player to lead the team in rebounding and assists in over 40 years. He's the 20th Kentucky player drafted in the first round, the first since Tayshaun Prince, 23rd overall back in 2002. Your thoughts on, let's talk about him as a talent first of all, Jay, and then we can get into where he fits in with the Celtics.
You know, absolutely super run and jump athlete. He's got long arms, he's got huge hands. I think one of the best perimeter defenders in this draft. He can stay in front of just about everybody. He can handle it, he can get to the rim and finish there. He's an outstanding guard rebounder, but you identified it, Dan. The problem is he can't shoot it at all. Teams in the Southeastern Conference didn't even guard him. So you put him on the floor, and the guy that's guarding him, he tries to keep him away from the rim, and then he sits in the lap of your best player as a double-team guy. So he's going to have to improve that shot. The question is, I don't think he's going to be a great shooter. You know, if he can become an adequate shooter, that would be great. But the other things that he does well, his positives, they're pretty solid, especially as a defender. And I think in the pro game, he's going to be a better player than he was in college because he's an open court player and the kind of guy that gets to the rim. And boy, I'll tell you, he grabbed 19 rebounds in one game this year. He's a big rebounder.
The Phoenix Suns didn't want to give Brian Grant $15 million for the season, so they traded him with Rondo in cash for the 2007 first-round pick.
It's breaking news that according to our Mark Stein, a deal is in place to send Boston point guard Rajon Rondo to Dallas for Brandon Wright, Jameer Nelson, and Jay Crowder, plus future first and second-round picks. That deal in place to go down tonight. Rondo in his 9th NBA season, averaging 8.3 points per game, which would be his lowest since his rookie year in 2006. However, leading the league with 3 triple-doubles. And if the Rondo trade does go through, as we expect it will, the Mavericks could potentially try out an all-star lineup here. Look at this. Rondo would join Monte Ellis in the backcourt. Ellis averaging more than 20 points a game this season. The Mavs also added Chandler Parsons and Tyson Chandler this offseason to join MVP Dirk Nowitzki. Not bad for them.
Yeah, that is a fine potential lineup there. Tim McMahon, our Mavs reporter for ESPNDallas.com, joining us now on SportsCenter. Timmy Mack, this is vintage Mark Cuban. Why make this move now?
You make this move now because the Mavs need to make a massive upgrade to be able to contend in the Western Conference this season. Jameer Nelson has had a nice career, but with all due respect, he was the worst starting point guard in the Western Conference. And, I mean, it's a conference that's absolutely loaded with big-time point guards. Russell Westbrook, CP3, Steph Curry, Tony Parker. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The Mavs were going to have a massive mismatch on their hands with pretty much any potential playoff opponent. Rajon Rondo gives them a chance to have a competitive situation at that point guard spot right away, directly addresses their need for a huge upgrade defensively at point guard, and marches right into Dallas as the Mavericks' second-best rebounder, addressing another major need for this team.
Yeah, and you know, Tim, on paper, we just looked at the projected lineup for the Dallas Mavericks. On paper, this thing looks really good. It makes a lot of sense. But as you know, going into Rick Carlisle's system perhaps takes a little time for him to get used to. How does Rondo fit immediately with the Mavs in Carlisle's system to get through that feeling out process?
Well, as I said, defensively, rebounding, huge upgrade, and should really help them. Offensively, frankly, he's going to need to adjust his game, and the Mavericks are going to need to adjust. And this is the best offensive team in basketball. And the concern about this trade is Rondo could come in and be a wrench in this offense. They do not need a point guard who dominates the ball. They do not need a point guard who screws up the space. And then Rondo is a 25% three-point shooter. That is a significant concern. So can he be a facilitator? Can he be a complementary piece offensively? They have scores. They have Dirk Nowitzki, Monte Ellis, Chandler Parsons. This is not a situation where Rondo is going to have the ball in his hands nearly as much as he has in Boston. So he's going to need to adjust to fit the Mavs system, not necessarily the other way around.
All right, Tim, you've covered this team for quite some time. Where does this move put them in the Western Conference?
Well, the hope and the Mavericks' goal is to get top four, to get home court advantage in the first round, and be right in the thick of things as the playoffs move into June. Again, we will see how he fits. We'll see whether this is a wrench in the Mavs' offense or whether this is a major upgrade on the defensive end, and the best offense in basketball can keep on humming.
Mark Cuban got the guy he wanted. Tim McMahon, ESPNDallas.com reporter of the latest on the Mavericks acquiring Rajon Rondo from the Boston Celtics.
When the Boston Celtics had finally reached a point with Rondo to trade him, they put in the piece of Dwight Powell acquired from the Keith Bogans trade, as you can see here. Jay Crowder. Jameer Nelson was straight up traded for Nate Robinson, then the Celtics waived him after a day. Brendan Wright would later be shipped to the Phoenix Suns for what was a protected 12 Minnesota Timberwolves first-round draft pick, but because they missed the playoffs in 15 and 16, it turned into 2 second-round draft picks. The first raid, I can't pronounce that, along with Deontay Davis, was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies for a lottery-protected 2019 or 2020 first-round Clippers draft pick, and Semi Ojeleye, who is still on the roster. And a Mavericks top 3 and 15 through 30 protected pick in 2015, or a top 7 through 16 and 20. That turned into Gershon Yabusele. And the better, more favorable, the Grizzlies Mavericks 2016 second-round picks. That turned into Demetrius Jackson. The Denver Nuggets traded a 2016 Memphis Grizzlies second-round pick that was protected top 55 for Rudy Fernandez, originally in the Rondo trade, and Corey Brewer, and a $12.9 million trade exemption.
In 2010, the Wolves used the 4th pick of the draft to pick Wesley Johnson. Some notables picked after him: DeMarcus Cousins, Greg Monroe, Gordon Hayward, Paul George, Larry Sanders, Eric Bledsoe, and Avery Bradley. After 2 disappointing seasons in Mini, they packaged Johnson with Brad Miller, Jerome Dyson, and a first-round protected pick, and got back a 2013 second-round pick, a 2014 second-rounder, and a 2016 second-round pick from the Hornets.
The YouTube user B-Ball-Breakdown fails to explain that was a 3-team trade, but the Phoenix Suns were involved in the trade. So if you're wondering, oh, where did the Phoenix Suns get the first-round pick from Minnesota? This is the trade, a 3-team trade.
With this roster and perhaps Rajon Rondo now being that missing piece, does this automatically make them title favorites?
Of course not. No way on earth does it automatically make them title favorites because they're in the Western Conference. If they were in the Eastern Conference, I think it would make them favorites to come out of the East ahead of Chicago and Cleveland, to be quite honest with you. But in the Western Conference, even at 19-8, they're the 6th seed right now if the playoffs were to begin today. And when you look at the other teams within the conference, I don't think it automatically puts them ahead of Memphis, San Antonio. To some degree, I think you can make the argument that it could potentially put them ahead of Golden State, but only because Bogut is out right now with his injuries. The Clippers obviously losing Spencer Hawes is going to struggle a little bit. James Harden is an MVP candidate, but there's some questions about Dwight Howard's health. But the Trailblazers can't be ignored, but they lost Lopez. So I think right now you could sit there and say this arguably elevates Dallas to number 3 or 4 within the Western Conference, but I certainly don't think it puts them ahead of San Antonio or Memphis. But it is a significant upgrade because when you're in the Western Conference, you can't get dominated by opposing point guards. There's Russell Westbrook in OKC. There's Tony Parker in San Antonio. There's Chris Paul in LA with the Clippers. There's Damian Lillard in Portland. So when you look at it from that perspective, because they're loaded at the point guard spot, it was definitely an Achilles heel for the Dallas Mavericks to have Rondo, who's an orchestrator and a playmaker extraordinaire from the point guard spot, who also D's up, who's got a heart of a lion, who shows up in big games and big moments, who refuses to get dominated at his respective position. I think all of those things help him, helps the Dallas Mavericks. And, of course, because he's the ultimate facilitator, he's a guy that's going to make Tyson Chandler look better. He's going to make Chandler Parsons look better. Dirk Nowitzki and Monte Ellis, too, but they don't need him as much as Chandler Parsons and Tyson Chandler will. But the fact that he's there, it's definitely a significant upgrade. And more importantly, Rick Carlisle, I keep saying this, Skip, is one of the best coaches in the game. And to have a quintessential extension of himself on that basketball court goes a very, very long way. I definitely think that Dallas is going to have something to say. They could end up going to the finals, but you can't guarantee that this automatically elevates them to the number 1 spot because there are challenges Rondo has offensively with his perimeter shot, and going up against some of those mercurial point guards in the Western Conference may be difficult, but he will rise to the challenge. He's definitely an upgrade, and it makes Dallas better. That much I'm willing to say.
With the 16th pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Guerschon Yabusele from Dreux, France. He last played for Rouen in France.
Guerschon Yabusele sitting in the stands here in Brooklyn. And the celebration is on. So, Fran Fraschilla, what about Yabusele?
You know, Reese, we used to call guys like this tweeners, but now we call them a small ball 4-man. And everybody's looking for that next Draymond Green. 6'8", 240 pounds. He's a load. He's like a Larry Johnson type body inside, but he also shoots 43% from behind the arc. He can block it, he can dunk it, and this is what he does that the Celtics like. He can stretch the defense. Played at a good level. Think about Pro A in France and all the French players in the NBA. French basketball translates, and this is a 20-year-old small ball 4-man. Nice pick by Boston.
Is it a nice pick for right now, Fran?
I think he can help them. Reese, he is 20, but he's got experience. I do think he can help them, especially because what does Boston need? Outside shooting. So there's a chance he could stick on this roster. Those picks. We'll let Danny Ainge figure that out.
And as Wilbon warned us, Ainge might not be finished. This guy, he's a new member of the Gershon Yabusele fan club.
Yes!
With the 16th pick of the 2016 NBA Draft,
Whoa!
the Boston Celtics select Gershon Yabusele.
Who is that? Who is the guy? Come on, Danny! Come on!
So I kind of just want to clarify why I had such an angry reaction, besides the fact that literally I never heard of him prior to the draft, and that's because all the projections I read and all the books and all the studies I did, like I said, that was the first time I heard of him. And I think there was some other prospects that I wanted that were available, and I'm like, who the is this dude? You know what I mean? But in the photo that I would have put earlier, me and him, like, I got to apologize to him when he was in Maine.
I want CA. I wish it was CA.
In the 2016 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Demetrius Jackson.
Not another European dude.
I kind of like Demetrius Jackson. I saw him in Maine, and it's a shame he was waived, realistically. We already had too many guards on the roster, though, so.
The 2017 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Shimi Ojale from Southern Methodist University.
Shimi Ojale averaged 19 points per game for the Mustangs. He started his career at Duke, and not really any bitter feelings about it. He said he wasn't prepared for the intensity of Duke basketball at the beginning, but boy, the transfer to SMU, and he's really blossomed this past year.
Well, he comes out of Kansas, and he's a really powerful athlete. Just an amazing body, 40-inch vertical, a really good offensive rebounding wing, and turned out to be the best shooter in the American Athletic Conference. Solid defender, averaged about 19.7 rebounds per game, and shoots about 42% from three. And early on in his career, when you saw him come out of Kansas, went to Duke, he wasn't that kind of shooter. He was really raw, but he has turned himself into a...
So I felt like doing an updated version of the trade since, there were more pieces added since I did the video back in July of 2015. And I'm probably going to get crucified in the comments section, considering, yes, I am the dude that booed Gershon Yabusele at the draft. So if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. This is Sports Trades. I'm Lou. See you in the next one.